Hi, good afternoon, as it is where we are sitting now, in ACI Reports, one of our sister companies over here in Skelmersdale in Lancashire. I'm with Sarah Edwards this afternoon to present our latest Stroma Insights, making sense of energy compliance, TM44s, DECs and EPCs, which is what ACI Reports do. So we'll try and translate building regulations into plain English, as we always do. And, as I said, we'll dive into some acronyms today. We like an acronym. Every building manager in the UK probably needs to understand these. And we'll talk about why and what the process is and some details as we go through it. But let's just start then. So, Sarah, hi, how are you?
Good, thank you, Stuart. Welcome to ACI Reports.
Thank you very much. It's nice to be in God's home, my home county, and out of Yorkshire for the day. So, and the weather's quite nice, so all good. So, tell us briefly about what you do, how the ACI things works, and however, really.
Okay, absolutely. I'm Sarah. I've been working at ACI Reports for 15 years, supporting building energy compliance. I help clients make sense of their obligations and ideally avoid fines along the way.
Cool. So, as with most things, there's the right reasons to do it, which is essentially energy efficiency. You can boil all the stuff that we do in the Stroma world down to energy efficiency, but sometimes there's a stick we need, and that, as you said, is if you don't do these things and you get caught, it's a bit of an unknown, that I guess, but you can face heavy fines, and those fines are becoming worse and more and bigger as regulation changes. So let's unpack individually the three kinds of basic reports that you deal with. So as I say, TM44s are DECs, display energy certificates, and non-domestic EPCs, energy performance certificates. So we'll start at the beginning with the first one that I said there, which is TM44. Which is about the inspections of air conditioning. So do you want to, this term gets thrown around quite a lot, but so what actually is a TM44 inspection?
Okay, sure. A TM44 refers to guidance documentation, which was produced by CIBSE, the Chartered Institution of Building Service Engineers, and it underpins the legal requirements of energy inspections of air conditioning systems. The rule comes from the Energy Performance of Building Regulations, which apply across the UK.
And that's been around for quite a long time now, hasn't it?
It has. It's coming up to 17, 18 years.
Is that for TM44 or for the whole?
That's correct, TM44.
Yeah, because even before that, with the requirement for EPCs, which we'll cover presently, that's going back almost 20 years now. So
correct.
There's this kind of, I didn't know we had to do that, but it was a new regulation that's come out of the woodwork 2 weeks ago, is it?
No, certainly not.
So there should be no excuse, should there, for doing it? So what makes your building require a TM44?
Okay, so if a building has air conditioning systems with a total kilowatt of 12 kilowatt or above
for cooling,
yep, it must have a TM44 inspection carried out by an accreditor assessor. What people tend to miss is if it's 12 kilowatt, out there it's 12 kilowatt and above, not just 13 and above.
No, so 12 is the cut-off, and therefore it's not. There was, when this, 17 years ago when this first happened, I remember people thought, this was only going to be for sort of shopping centres and big offices and stuff like that, but actually 12 kilowatts of cooling is not a massive amount of cooling, is it?
Exactly, no. It can be anything from 3 splits to 4 splits, depending actually on the system.
So any little high street shop could potentially fall into the criteria?
Correct, yes.
Okay, so that's the point there. It's the total system capacity, not the individual units. So you've got to add all that together, which makes perfect sense. Because at the end of the day, we're doing this to make the air conditioning is a big user of energy in the UK, and we want to make sure the units of the air conditioning hardware, if you will, is working as efficiently as it should be working. So what's the inspection look like? What do you actually have to do? What does it involve?
Okay, so the assessor reviews how efficient the system operates. This is by a number of things, looking at the external condensers, the controller systems, the maintenance records, and whether the system is appropriately sized for the space that it's cooling. It's a kind of like a health check to your air conditioning, and it focuses on energy efficiency. It is not to be mixed up with annual maintenance.
No, that is important, isn't it? This is not open it up, have a look in it, change parts in it. This is a general, what does this generally look like? And it might lead to that, because if the assessment says that some things look a bit like they need proper attention, then it's perfectly proper for that to be used as information to go and talk to the sort of technical air conditioning engineers, isn't it?
Yes, the TM44 is a visual inspection only.
Okay. And what do you do with it when you've got it?
Okay, so following the site visit, the accredited assessor, will go back to his desktop. He will input the data into the government software, and that produces a TM44 certificate and report, which is both lodged on the government register, which is then valid for 5 years.
And that's the important bit, isn't it? It's just having it on the shelf isn't required. It has to be lodged on the government register, and this is visible then to anybody that needs to check that it exists.
Yes, expired certificates do show on the government register as expired.
So if someone was looking to see if someone should have one, it's quite easy to see if one hasn't been done and one isn't up to date. So a word of warning there, and that obviously could produce fines. We'll talk about that probably in a bit, but and 5 years volition, that's, so do it, put it on the shelf. And it's amazing how quickly 5 years elapses. So put a diary note in 4 years to be ringing up, and I'm sure you guys will chase them anyway. So you'll make sure that the people are on top of it and keep it in the required cycle.
Yeah.
So what happens if you forget and you don't do it and you skip it? Whatever.
Okay.
It doesn't happen, shall we say? Let's not put any blame on anybody. Let's look at the stick here rather than the carrot.
Okay. So the enforcement is typically by trade and standards, who may send a letter or a door knock even to the premises. They can issue fines of up to £300 per offence, which can be repeated weekly until the inspection is completed and lodged on the government database. Well,
those are probably not aware of our 300 times table, but that could soon mount up, couldn't it? So I'm assuming if someone was caught out and they contacted you, you could then offer them some confirmation very quickly to say, it's okay, we're having it done, we can't get around to doing it till a small time in the future, but the trading standards would accept that as a way to stop.
They do, yes. We have issued a letter in the past to clients that they've produced to the trades and standards, and then we've attended site and issued the certificate pretty much straight away.
So don't bury your head in the sand. Do what you should. And actually, that's the stick, but the carrot, and then in some ways is more, potentially more money, is the wasted energy if the system isn't working as it should be. Yeah,
that's correct. Yeah, beyond penalties, the bigger issue is wasted energy, and air conditioning represents a large slice of the building. If a system is inefficient, you're literally paying for cold air to be wasted.
And then 2026, with the energy costs being what they are, and carbon targets under scrutiny, this efficiency really matters, isn't it? We talk a lot about heating buildings, but actually we spend a lot of energy cooling them, don't we?
It does. We find more tenants often asking now for copies of TM44 reports and certificates when they're negotiating their leases.
Well, absolutely. The energy of running your premises, whether that be an office, a shop or whatever, it's probably the second biggest cost you're going to be hit with whilst running your business. Okay, so that's TM44s in a nutshell. It's very straightforward. Get a hold of ACI, tell them about your buildings, and that they will come and sort it out for you. We'll move on from that to DECs, Display Energy Certificates, and these mostly apply in the public sector if memory serves me, but they set a good example. And what's their purpose?
Okay, so a display energy certificate shows how efficient a building actually is when in operation. It's based on the measured energy usage over the previous 12-month period, and that's on gas, electricity and other fuels.
So this is different to a EPC because which looks at the design potential, i.e. what you could and how you could improve a property or a building or whatever you like. But so the government mandates that all publicly owned and publicly, they're buildings that are visited by the public. Is it 250 square metres? We're jumping around a bit. There's
250 square metres
of 250 square metres of occupied. So, so anything from a small GP's practice to, the biggest public building you could conceive of. And actually, if you are in such a building, the word display is meaningful because it needs to be displayed in A3 size somewhere where it can be viewed by the people who are using the building, so the public. So if you're out and about anywhere, have a look. And it uses the quite well-known A to G, as we use for energy efficiency of a lot of things in the world now, whether that be cars or light bulbs or washing machines or whatever. A being the best, G being the worst. But as you say, it's not conceptual. This is it. It actually does take into account the amount of energy consumed in the building. So, accurate and useful, I think.
That's correct. Each deck comes with an advisory report listing ways to cut energy usage, things like upgrades, insulation controls. Okay,
so there's some thresholds. We talked about the 250 square metre, which is the small where the legislation kicks in, but then there's some more sizes of buildings that are relevant to the validity period, I believe.
Yeah, so buildings over 250 square metres that are occupied by public authorities and that are visited by the public need a deck. If they're over 1,000 square metres, the deck must be renewed every year. And if they're between 250 and 1,000 square metres, it's valid for 10 years, with a desktop exercise being carried out every year.
So you kind of do a renewal, don't you?
That's correct, yes.
There's no need to go to the site every year, providing nothing's changed radically, but that can be confirmed in by someone who has responsibility for the building that no major work has changed. Therefore, the profile, if you will, of the energy usage has probably not changed. So that's a very helpful breakdown. And you mentioned the advisory part there, but that's in some ways probably the most valuable part of the document because it gives some guidance into potential investment in the building and what you could do to increase the energy efficiency.
It does, yeah. It gives organisations a roadmap to become more efficient.
Mm-hmm. But that's not a legally binding thing, is it? You don't have to do what's done. No. It's just a suggested, if you did this, you could save this kind of recommendations. What are the penalties for not having a valid deck? We're going to come back to this because this is, if we're being brutally honest, this is one of the drivers for a lot of people.
Okay, typically up to £1,500 for failing to display the certificate, or £1,000 for not having the advisory report available on request. Again, this is enforced by local authorities.
Good. But beyond compliance, it's also about credibility, isn't it? And, the government who own these buildings ultimately should be leading from the front, for want of a better expression. So, they don't look very credible if they're not following their own guidelines, do they?
Exactly. Somebody who gets a D rating on a deck, it sends a message that the energy efficiency is being taken seriously.
Agreed. And, that ultimately is all our money, isn't it? Ultimately, it's government money that's paying for the energy in a lot of these buildings. Energy efficiency being taken seriously. Unfortunately, I think this is more the case over the last few years since our energy prices have become considerably more than they used to be. So there is perhaps a silver lining in there, but this is all there. It should all be being done. Okay, so that's DECs. And then on to the final section, which is non-domestic EPCs, or Energy Performance Certificates. And this is the EPC that most commercial landlords and developers will have to deal with, yeah?
Yes, an EPC actually measures how energy efficient a building is. It's based on the construction and the services and the fabric on this occasion. Again, it's rated from an A to G, A being the most efficient. It's required when a building is constructed, sold or let.
Yeah. So you mainly deal in the kind of existing buildings, so for when people sell or let the buildings, I'm guessing.
Existing dwellings, yes.
We at Stroma can help you with the with the EPC for your new build stuff, by the way. So when does it have to be in place, the EPC?
Okay, again, it's got to be carried out by an accredited
non-domestic
energy assessor.
You've made that point of accredited energy assessor throughout this, and I've not really picked up on it. Perhaps we'll dwell on that for a little minute. So not anybody can do all of these activities we're talking about today. You need to have the specific competence to do the TM44, the DECs, and the EPCs. It's not a one qualification, one competence covers all. So, and that means by having the competency and by having the qualification, you can join a certified energy assessment scheme who will do ongoing quality assurance and make sure that everything's done and audits the work done by these individuals. So there is a sort of a backup or somebody else checking the checking. So there is a robust process in place to make sure the quality control is kept up. So okay, that's that. Just a bit of a sidebar there, but important. If someone's offering to do one of these things for you, you can look to individual up on the approved register, can't you?
Yes, that's correct.
It's probably available. So if someone tells you they are, you can check by their name or that they give you a accreditation number. So we can help with that. But how does it tie into broader legislation? I'm thinking here particularly the Minimum Energy Efficiency Standard, or MEES, which we like an acronym for everything. How does MEES sort of affect the
So under the MEES, landlords can't legally let a commercial property below an EPC rating of an E.
I think there's exemptions, but we won't go into exemptions today.
It's got to be a registered exemption.
Yeah, if there's any interest in that, please do get in touch and we can explain that in more detail. But that's although that's quite easily said, that's quite an undertaking, that, isn't it? Because at the end of the day, if you're a commercial landlord, again, another sidebar, similar legislation applies in the domestic arena as well, but we're not here today to talk about that. Your building, you can still let it to the person who's been using it and been letting it over a long term. But if that lease changes and you find you haven't got an E, in effect, that building becomes a bit of a problem for you because your business model is based on the rent that you will be gaining from that building. And if you can't let it because of this, you're going to have to do some work to it to improve it, aren't you?
Yes, government proposed on pushing towards targets being a B by 2030, which means many existing buildings will need upgrades well ahead of the deadline. And this is often found in the lighting, the insulation, the heating and the HVAC systems within the building.
So don't kick this down the road. If you are a landlord and you think you're going to change tenancy with any of your buildings, it might be worthwhile finding out what the EPC rating is on your building. There's nothing stopping you having it done at any time, is there, Sarah?
No, of course not. Ahead of 2030.
And once you have it, and once you have it, is valid for 10 years, isn't it?
Correct.
There was some consultation in the last year or so that was talking about reducing that validity period, but that did not manifest itself. So we're still talking, because once you have an EPC, it is technically valid for 10 years. In some ways, even if you completely change that building, if you're going to improve that building, then put some, make it better. My advice would always be to get a new EPC, because you want to have the best EPC rating you can on the register. So yeah, all evolving, isn't it? And and so what happens if the landlord ignores the MEES and keeps leasing a low rented property? Because inevitably this will probably happen. There's the civil penalties here, isn't there?
That's correct, yeah. They risk the penalty of up to £150,000, depending on the property value. And again, worst of all, the reputation, the details will be published on a public register and reputation will be impacted. Indeed.
So do the right thing. I mean, if you are a landlord, then obviously you need to assess the valuation of your properties against various criteria, I'm sure. But, this is absolutely a new thing you've got to consider, what its energy performance is. And as you said earlier, Sarah, on another point, people are asking now, aren't they? Tenants are moving, as individuals moving into dwellings are very interested in how energy efficient the dwelling might be. If I'm a tenant in a non-domestic building and I'm going to move to a new premises, I'm going to ask that question, and I'm certainly going to be in my comparison if I've got 3 or 4 buildings that I'm potentially looking at, I would have thought.
Correct. You'd go for the best grading.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's the only factor you do it on, but
Yeah.
But but it's something that people are looking at.
Into
So therefore, EPCs are no longer just that formality that perhaps they were thought of some time ago, but they generally do affect the property's rental value and marketability. So, don't hide from them. As Sarah says, there will probably be a rush as we get towards 2030. That's not a guaranteed date yet. I wouldn't see it moving out much more than that. But the broader point now is about ESG, isn't it? It all falls into that.
Absolutely. Investors now look at EPC ratings for ESG assessments. Poor ratings can affect many things, such as mortgage lenders for commercial properties.
So at last, there is value in energy efficiency. It's not just something out there because of all the things we've talked about and then all the checks and balances we've got to bring into play by having these requirements carried out on our buildings. So that's EPCs with all the things that come with them. So we've got these three pillars we've talked about: the TM44, the DEC, the EPC. Do they connect? Do you think? I mean, I think they do. But you could see a building that's got air conditioning over 12 kilowatts in it that needs to be rented and to somebody. If it's in the private sector, and if it's in the public sector, you need to do a DEC anyway, and the TM44 if it's got the right criteria. So that they
do connect.
The Venn diagram crosses.
Yes, most definitely. They all are connected, sitting on the government database too.
Yeah. Think of this slightly bigger picture. And as we said, local authorities are cross-checking compliance data. It's no longer possible to sort of hide that missing certificate somewhere in the proverbial drawer, as it were. Everything, as you say, is digital lodged and on government registered. And then you used the word reputational value impact earlier on. I think that is, customers know these things are required, then they're going to think better of you if you have them, aren't they? It's a bit like, I suppose, seeing the food standard stuff on restaurants and things like that. People are becoming more aware of general compliance, I think. So we've talked about why we need them, the theory of them, who does them, blah, blah, blah. But what's some practical steps here to stay compliant? What would you say if someone said, I've got some buildings, Sarah, how are you going to take me through the process?
Okay, so in a nutshell, there's three potential overviews that you'd look at for building efficiency. The EPC shows you the potential of the building, how it's designed to perform. The DEC, the display energy certificate, shows the reality, how much energy it's actually using. And the TM44 looks at a major system, the cooling, to ensure it's not wasting energy on a day-to-day usage. Together they close a loop between design, operation and maintenance. If you act on the recommendations for all three, your building becomes more efficient, your carbon footprint drops, and you stay compliant.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good to me.
That's a great list. Worth remembering all the opportunities. Let's try and think of them as opportunities, not burdens. Energy efficiency buildings generally cost less to run and are more attractive to tenants, and they're just generally kind of nicer places to be. So, thank you for today, Sarah. That's been a great walkthrough of the three things that you do. Hopefully, we've explained the purpose behind it, and it's really about, in the end, I suppose, managing your building smarter. Accept that they're a big asset to your business, whether or not you're a tenant or you're a landlord. People want more efficient, compliant buildings, and they will allow you to be ahead in the market, I would hope, as well as avoiding the fines we've talked about. So have you got anything just to finish on, Sarah?
Everything is digitally logged on the government database. It's easy to identify compliance. Here at ACI Reports, we're more than happy to do checks for compliance if we could be given some data. Being proactive now saves bigger costs and headaches later on. Absolutely. Think ahead. A stitch in time, I believe is the saying. And it's part of the sustainable building management sort of suite of things now, isn't it? Well, that was great, Sarah. That was really interesting. Thank you for taking the time to speak to me today. And thank you all for listening. We'll speak to you very soon, next month or so, with the new Stroma Insights. If you've got any questions, comments, please do get in touch. Stroma.com or ACI. You find there's a link to the ACI website on Stroma.com if that's easier to find. And as Sarah says, always happy to engage. A quick chat now can save you a lot of effort and time later on. Most definitely.
So thank you very much, and nice to speak to you, and bye for now.
Thank you.